Okay, so good morning, everybody out there in the world, like all over the freaking world. So life has been going by so quickly that I even lose track of my own dates that are important. Though, I mean, yes, anniversary is important because we're heading into October, which was the time that my husband and I actually first met back in 2010. But it was 9/24/2011 when we decided to get married. And so after about 6 months of talking and then about a year of just figuring out some stuff, we decided that we were going to embark on a journey called Let's Battle the World Together and go through our trials and tribulations. And so yesterday was our anniversary, and it was so funny because I was at a juncture on Saturday where I just didn't need to do anything at that point. I needed to sit on the information. And so it was the next day that I knew we were going to go fishing, and I just forgot that it was the anniversary. So, and I just remembered because we already planned to go fishing on Sunday together. And I'll tell you, yesterday when I went fishing and I got up like regular and no issue with waking up like I usually do. I mean, we actually slept in. My husband slept in, and we didn't leave until like way later, but I was ready to go even early on. But he slept in until about way later, and then about maybe 11 or 12. And I was just humming. Like, when I was out there, like when we got out in the truck and we went out there in the community around so much frequency, which, yeah, is going to happen. You're around now a lot of people and the infrastructure, commerce. And I was just zipping around, getting this, getting that, feeling so highly energetic. And so it was such a different feeling than it was before. So why is that so? Because before it would just, I just remember just how hard it was to wake up in the morning and drive and not a lot of energy. And it was just like, I had a very different experience yesterday, and I was paying attention to the fishing. I had a lot more patience. We caught a few fish, and I enjoyed hanging out with my husband, listening to music. You saw where we went to, my favorite place, which is over there in Portage Lakes. It's just such a beautiful place. Oh my gosh. And so it was, and we had, like a lunch with some friends, and it was just nice. It was just really, really nice. And yeah, I couldn't ask for a better day, and it was just so enjoyable. Like, I couldn't wait. I had so much energy. I couldn't wait for the next venture. And so I would say by far it was the perfect weather, and by far it was a good experience, a great experience. And after so many years of fishing with my husband through all the different seasons, I would say that it was a challenge just before, I don't know, the environment. See, that's the thing. When you're in a different space of body, mind, and spirit, your experiences are different. Even though it's the same situation, the way when you finally release those demons, have so much mental clarity, it's like you enjoy the same experience even more so. Like, literally, you enjoy the same experiences even more so. And then you feel like you can do anything. That's the major thing, is that now you have a new lease on life. It's like now you're like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, da da da. But obviously everything, must be tempered. But I'll say that it was, it was a good time. And so I had a thought this morning. What triggered my thoughts this morning was watching all the different chemtrail activists be so anti-government. And I'm just like, how far are they going to take this anti-government stance? I mean, to what degree, to what destructive degree are they going to just take their, and that's the thing. People are going to take their stuff as far as they can take it until they don't exist anymore. And then when I realized that people keep repeating the same thing, and I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, I'll read what I wrote, and then I'll come back to that in a second, to the beginning. Anti-government, anti-authority was a conditioning of resistance that was destructive. It was intended to be. Anti-establishment was a religion, is a religion. I was raised to be anti-establishment. Not that it was like the thing to do. It was just a programming, because being anti-establishment is relative to what kind of establishment that's being established or is established. And then you're just playing devil's advocate. You're giving somebody else a place to go if they feel like it's not fair over here. And so, hold on a second. Anti-establishment is just another place to go. If someone is dissatisfied with where they are and they want a place to go resist. Because that's the thing, you have to give somebody a way out. If there is no way out, then they will go and try to destroy things because they don't have a place to go. That's the thing, you always have to give people a place to go. Another belief system, another thought process, a different way of doing things, so that way they don't feel hopeless and destructive and all of that. And when you have a place to go, then you'll find like-minded people and they make you feel welcome. You have a place to go. You feel accepted. I mean, that's the nature of religions. Politics, religions, and science is giving people a place to go if they're dissatisfied with the current place they're in. So anti-government, anti-authority was a condition of resistance that was destructive. It was intended to be. Well, what do you mean by it was intended to be? Because if you weren't going to follow the government's laws and you were going to question them and you didn't have discernment to say, okay, to throw out the baby with the bathwater, you don't do that, but people do. They throw out the baby with the bathwater. And so then what happens is then, yeah, I hope I'm aligning with this, but that's fine. As far as my voice and the picture. But then, yeah. All right. So anyways, so anti-establishment was a place that if you were dissatisfied, that you had a place to go and you had somebody to accept you. And it was intended to be destructive because you would throw out the baby with the bathwater. What do I mean by that? It means that then it'd be easy for you to be like, okay, if the government says to do A, then you always do B. If the government says you do B, then you always do A. And that right there is a conditioning. That right there is a manipulation. Okay? Anti-establishment was religion, is religion. That's religion that does not give you discernment. Because, yeah, you'll just do the complete opposite. If my parent says I should do this, I'm going to do the complete opposite and do that. And then you can completely control that person. You can manipulate the fuck out of them. Because you won't know the games when you are anti-government, anti-authority. They have you right where they want you. They know how to stroke your ego. And since the government can play both sides, they know right how to mess with you. And you let them do it. And you walk right into the manipulation. When you are anti-government, you don't realize how played you are. You have been played. If I was government and I knew you were anti-government, like anti-Jillian, then I would find every way to speak to your anti-Jillian. And I would still show you exactly what you're doing, and that you're anti-Jillian or pro-Jillian, if you don't understand where I'm coming from, really. And if you're anti-government, pro-government, I'll show you exactly what your belief system has led you to if you don't fix yourself. Because you're playing into the games of, if I do this, then this will happen. If I don't do this, then this will happen. The if-then equations doesn't mean that they're equations that were for your benefit. It just gave you a place to develop a platform and then live from that, but the outcome will always be the same. The outcome is death and destruction and deterioration. Okay, so those of you who have been on the platform with anti-V and pro-V, and you're not actually fixing yourself, literally fixing yourself at the micro level, it didn't matter what you did or did not do if you were already deteriorating. The outcome would always be the same. You would die anyways, maybe even sooner relative to your predisposed issues. And so if I was anti-government, if I was government and I knew you were anti-government, I would play reverse psychology, because I know just how you think. Yeah, you are predictable. You're going to find out just how predictable you really are. And playing into the anti-establishment, anti-government, regardless of which one it is, they also know how to trigger you to react in a very specific way. They know how to pull your strings, push your buttons. You are a puppet when you are anti-anything. You are a puppet to be played with and told what to say and told what to do, believe or not believe, and told what to do or not to do and all that. And so you are no different than someone who believes in everything that someone tells them. And just because you play the opposite doesn't mean you think for yourself. It just means you're easily manipulated. That's how children get played. That's how children get controlled, because you don't have enough life experience to understand what the heck you're dealing with. Knowing both sides and understanding both arguments, you will see the manipulation. But if you refuse to see both arguments, then you are easily led. And when you don't understand, that's how they control the parents of children and using the parents to destroy their own children. And it's not that they're using the parents. The parents already don't want to feel pain. The parents already have an issue with food and water and air. The parents already have an issue with discomfort, and they want everything, and they want it kind of easy, and they want everyone to, kowtow to whatever they want, what their children want. They don't want anyone feeling anything of a slight discomfort. And so when you ask for a scapegoat because your kid has deficiencies and issues, and someone says, well, hey, you can blame it on the gluten. You can blame it on the sugar. You can blame it on the salt. You're asking somebody to give you a patsy. Blame it on jelly juice. Blame it on, fermented cabbage. When you already are deteriorating, they will give you every patsy in the fucking world so you feel absolved. That's religion. That's lack of accountability, when you have to find something to blame or find someone to worship, to give away your power to, because you think that you have no power. It's somebody else always doing shit for you or doing something to you. And so when you don't understand, that's how they control the parents of children and using the parents to destroy their own children, because it's the parents that give permission. You never saw it coming because you thought you knew it the best. And even if you think the government knows best, they know how to control you because you couldn't get out of your own way. And you lack experience, you lack education, you lack feeling for the situations that could save you. How can you feel when you're being cured and treated forever? That's where they got you. They controlled the feelings they wanted you to feel. And they took away the feelings that would save your life. They wanted you to feel hate, love, depression, happiness. Those are the four humors. And they made you very addicted to it. And they gave you so many things to bring out all the hate, love, and happiness. You couldn't stand to be away from it. That's how they got you. That's what the animals are. That's what all the animals, the children, the puppies, the kittens. I'll tell you, when a guy gets around a kitten or a puppy, their heart melts. Now they're easily controlled. When a girl or a boy or whoever, when they're around animals and puppies, they become soft. Those animals are hormonally driven to bring out the softness in people. But we don't want so much softness. We don't want so much hardness. Well, there's got to be a balance. But what happens is when you get so soft, then you become desensitized, because then you're just addicted to the energy, the oxytocin from the children, from the animals, from the puppies. It's a trip how the system has found ways to control people's feelings. And they also made you addicted. And you couldn't see anyone else's point of view except for your own. That is your undoing. That's all parents' undoings. That's everybody's undoing. You don't like somebody else's opinion or a way of doing things? That's your choice. But I'll tell you, that's what I'm saying. The system leverages people through their own children, through their animals, through their loved ones. But oh my God, that sounds so evil, so premeditated. Well, not necessarily, because that's what you wanted. Someone said maybe we need to curb some of the reproduction. Maybe we need to guide reproduction carefully. Maybe we need to lessen the people because of these outcomes. There's so many studies on the outcome of rampant reproduction. Even Universe 25, when there's so much population, extinction happens. They've showed you this, but people are like, oh, well, I'm still going to do what I'm going to do. And so then when you make people so soft, right? And people are so soft, they're so protected, and they're so full of oxytocin and so full of love, then they become broken. Why? Because they don't have what it takes to deal with hardship. The system has bred a lot of predators, some really hard charging type of people. They had to, because those are the balancing forces. How else are you going to condition people to deal with the changing climate and to control the reproduction, to control even their own proclivities. I mean, it's so convoluted when you think about how many diverse people out there are in the population, what cultures they came from, what religions they came from, what science dogmas they came from. And you don't know what they endured in their own home. You don't know what they endured in their culture. You don't know really too much of anything about people. And so how do you survive situations that you don't even are aware of how broken they are and how they could break you? And that's the thing, is we are seeing now the outcome of making people so soft and so broken that then extinction, like all out extinction. So I purposely posted something, a Rothschild's, what's his name? Baron William Rothschild. Okay. And there's been a lot of hatred around the Rothschilds in the conspiracy world. I entertained that for a few years when I didn't really know any better. And I was exploring all the different religions and belief systems in the conspiracy world. And I know it really pissed off my mother around that because it seemed anti, whatchamacallit, SEM. But again, it was through my own exploration. I had to go and explore all the different belief systems and even buy into it for a minute because I don't know any better. When you see the whole Satan and devil and you see all these different religions with figureheads, and you look at Catholicism and look at all the statues, and you're not realizing there's a whole backstory. There's so many footnotes in religion, in politics, in science, that it's not everything. Sometimes a banana is just a banana, and sometimes a banana represents something else. And you don't know what these things represent until you study all the religions. That's when I figured out that the goat's head or the Satan or the devil or demons are all accountability to someone who doesn't want to be accountable. And so maybe some religions are the accountability. So then they're like, oh yeah, well they're satanic. Not necessarily in the way that you think. They're not trying to destroy anyone purposely. You've already destroyed yourself. Now the system has to go and say, okay, you got to be accountable for the destruction. We're going to give you whatever you want. You can have all the remedies and all the surgeries and all of the pills and the powders and supplements and detoxes and antibiotics and all the baubles and all the riches and the fame and the wealth and everything else. You can do whatever you want. We'll even not even hold you accountable when you're 20 years old and you're just taking, you're overstepping boundaries. Like right now we're dealing with Russell Brand finally being held accountable for stuff he did way back when he was 20, when he didn't know any better, but this is let him do whatever he wanted. And so then that's what the devil and the Satan and the darkness and the demons and the incubus and the succubus, that's all accountability. And so that's the Hermetics and the Christian Gnostics, the Jewish mystics, the Egyptian, the Greco, platforms. And that is Rosicrucian. There's a balance of life and a balance of death and a balance of breakage and a balance of accountability. And it's balancing both sides. And I finally get it. It took me 50 fucking years, but I finally get it. And so then I understood now where the Rothschilds are coming from. I don't demonize them. No, I don't demonize them at all. And what he said, what Baron Rothschild said, okay? And he's definitely a man of distinction. Allow others to figure things out for themselves. That fucking spoke to me. That spoke to me. That was 2 days ago. The fixer ends up becoming the enabler. Let people figure out for themselves. Give them a chance to learn. And then he says, follow the light. All right? So when you become too light, you can become blinded. And so there's always a balance, but we had so much darkness because everyone's just getting whatever the hell they want and no one's being held accountable until the environment holds them accountable. And so there's got to be a balance of both. And at this point, right now, with the light that we are experiencing, with this climate change, there will be darkness for some. The accountability is going to be very dark for some people. And that's why I was sad for humans yesterday or the day before, because I knew how much darkness was going to be at some point when the climate shifts even more so and aggressively. Because it's set to be more aggressive. We already know that we're in 5G, 6G, 7G. We have storms coming through. We know climate change is climate change. I mean, so anyway, so then I wrote on top of that. It was like, yep, now you see what I was raised with. Sound logic. I had to fix myself. Life will always break you. You will always be exposed to people who will attempt to break you and will break you. How will you put your own pieces together on your own with minimal outside intervention? That's how you know what you're made of, when you put yourself together. Okay, no one's putting you together. No one's picking. And people pick up the pieces, but they can't put you together. They can pick up the pieces, and you can be the shoulder to lean on. But in reality, you have to put yourself together. You have to be the one to do that. When you go and search for someone to help you do whatever, you got to be one to do your own research. You got to be one to make your own choices. That's the role of a mother. Is when you're at your lowest point in your life, the lowest point where you're still alive. But even then, you could be on the street with a needle hanging out of your arm. You could be in some rehab or in jail, or be so alone because no one's around you. And you're looking for someone to save you, like your mom, and she says, you know what, you're on your own. You're on your own because you put yourself here. What are you going to fucking do to get out of it? That's the kind of mother you want. You don't want a mother coming in, flying in, and saving you from yourself, because how are you going to fucking learn? But when you finally face the choices you've made, whether it's the last 10 years, 20 years, or even 5 years, and you develop a plan to pull yourself out of that hole, no matter how deep it was and is, if you have the capability, then you know what you're made of. That's the kind of mother you want, that allows you to figure out and discover what you're made of, survive in every situation. So then when you think about it, when I had to go back to that camp where that girl whirled me around by my hair, and I still had to face her every single day till the end of camp, that's when you know you can still face your enemy, and you don't want to destroy them, because you can't be premeditated like that. People make mistakes, they do stupid shit, they do what they were raised to do, and you still can't get back at them. You still can't destroy them. Because if you do, then you're held accountable, because it's premeditated. You weren't in danger. If that situation transpired where I had to defend myself, then okay, who started and who did what? But if someone just did something to you and then you didn't do anything back, and then it was days later that you premeditated something, then that's when you're held accountable, because you premeditated that situation. So that's the thing, is that can you face every single thing that ever challenged you and your perception of it, and still not try to get back and whatever, do retribution? You can still pull yourself out from under a situation and save yourself. That's the kind of mother you want, that shows you that you have the capability to make the right choices. You have the capability to pull yourself up from with your own bootstraps, by your own bootstraps, that you can pull yourself out of that fucking hole. Because when it comes down to it, when you're in the gutter with a needle hanging out of your arm and you still have life in you, when you are stuck homeless with nowhere to go except for a homeless shelter, and no mother and no father or no anyone's coming to save you, then you realize what it takes to actually build yourself up from the ground up. But it's those who save others is what enables their brokenness. And parents do that all the time. And so the system is now showing you guys, when you have somebody saving you, when they're enabling you by not allowing you to fix yourself, that you've done them a disservice. You have made them weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And it's very difficult to parent properly, because you'd have to watch them, and they may not even survive their own life. If they don't survive their own choices, then even you saving them is just going to make your life worse, because then they will destroy you while they're destroying them at the same time. And then it's a mutually assured destruction when you try to save someone from themselves. And people learn that every day. They try to save their sons from doing whatever, and they give them a house, give them this, give them that. And then, whoa, that son or that daughter then does what they do, but they did it in your house now. And they made your life miserable, and they put you in danger. And so at some point, somebody's got to be like, okay, I gotta put some boundaries down, if they even survive that situation. Okay? And so I had to fix myself, and I fucking did. I was at low points in my life where I was just like, fuck. Being in a shelter, being in, I don't know, really aggressive, violent situations that wasn't so bad, but could have been bad. I was around some pretty dangerous people through my adulthood, doing stupid shit, reacting to things that I couldn't handle at the time, but I handled it the way I handled it. And I had to sit in that misery, in that danger. And I had to figure out how to get the fuck out, because no one was going to save me. I was at a point where I could have been killed at one point. Okay? And sometimes it takes you being in such mortal danger And how are you going to survive your way out? That's like a war. And I'm telling you, life out there is a war. There are people that are brutal. There are people that are cunning. They're predatory. And they will find every way in. And if you don't know how to protect yourself, and you don't recognize predatory behaviors for what they are, you'll invite the devil into your world. The accountability into your world. And so many people don't survive accountability. They don't. And that's what you're seeing right now. People are not surviving their accountability. They're dying suddenly, or they're contracting cancer, disease, and chronic illness, or they are being hurt as we speak, actively being hurt. And there's nothing, you can't save them because they put themselves in that situation until they put themselves out of that situation. You can't do shit. So life will always break you. Life will break you. You will always be exposed to people who will attempt to break you and will break you. How will you put your own pieces together on your own with minimal outside intervention? That's how you know what you're made of. When you put yourself together. The world is a training ground of people attempting to break you and break you. I was given the world as a training ground, battling the demons out there. And there are so many. And they wouldn't think of me as a demon. And they would think of me as a demon as well, because we're only demons to someone who can't handle our presence for whatever reason. We are only the devil to people who need the accountability. Okay, I've invited devils in my world because I wasn't accountable for my actions. I wanted to go an easy way out, thought that was an easy way out. No, it wasn't. If anything, that was the hardest way. And they were telling me, nope, if you're going to try to get the easy way, I'm going to make it fucking hard for you. And I'll make you then this, and this. And I realized, oh shit, I couldn't get the easy way. Because they would then look for something in return. And maybe I couldn't afford to give them what they wanted in return. That's the thing. That's the easy. When people do easy way outs, they get their ass handed to them on so many levels. And that is so true. That is a law out there. No shortcuts. And don't think anyone out there is a savior, because again, your ass will be handed to you when you look at someone as a savior. Because every savior out there will have a demon attached to it. That's a demon of accountability. And one does not come without the other. They both come in hand. So if you're looking for a savior, the demon will be right there. That's the whole thing with the Catholic Church. They're trying to show you. You look for someone as a savior, the demons are right there looking down on you. Those statues, those reliefs, that big, huge, whatever. It's like, yeah, okay, you want everything. You want the baubles, the fame, the glory, the pain-free lifestyle, all the operations. And look, this is going to happen to your kids. They're going to turn into some kind of Nephilim. Well, I'll say Nephilim, but some kind of altered being because of all the things that you've done to take the shortcuts and want to have children and absolution and all this other stuff. Then this is the devil taking his due, the accountability. And that's the whole thing with original sin. It's the accountability for altering your genes, developing offspring. Okay? The devil, I mean, that was such an awakening the other day. I understand now the Catholic religion. But they'll still give you what you want. Hey, you want your operations, you want your detoxes, you want your large families? Okay, great. We'll give you absolution, but what's the ultimate absolution? It's death. We'll absolve you from whatever violations you have against your life, but then the end result is the devil will take his due. Accountability will take its due. And it's not pretty for everybody. And so we are only the devil to people who needed the accountability. Because we all invite energy that teaches us lessons, and then we learn from those lessons. And we make different choices. And sometimes we don't make different choices. We resist the accountability. We hate the accountability. We demonize accountability. Sometimes people try to destroy accountability. I was there. I'm not there anymore, but I was there. When I was saying the things that I was saying, I didn't have a lot of the science behind me yet, and I still had to explain why people were in pain, and I didn't even have that. But I knew I had something. But all of my critics, everyone that was questioning me, what I was saying, they were the accountability. My government was the accountability. My trolls were the accountability. Even my own followers were my accountability, because I still had to explain what the fuck I was doing and why. And I had to go and research everything down to its most infinitesimal evidence and provide you the credibility, provide you the story that could be told through science, through allegory, through history. Not that people are going to believe it. Not everybody believes it, but that's fine. You all have a choice. But, I played the game of lobbing grenades back and forth. But the system is done with those trying to destroy accountability. That's what the New World Order wants, a very different society of people who actually take accountability. And when a person is broken, they know how to fix themselves. I did. I fixed myself. It's inevitable. All of us we're broken by our family and friends and society. It's a given. You can't protect your children from everything. And if you try to, you'll make them so weak. What was even the point trying to protect them? There was no fucking way. And if people don't break people, but they will. It's built into the family and relationship. In other words, if you don't see people around you breaking you because you're so conditioned to be broken, the environment will break you. That's what's going on. We have just people who have so many family and friends, and they're doing whatever they do, contracting so many different things and disease and all that. But they think that is love. They think that is acceptance and friendship. And they're being broken. They're so conditioned to be broken, they don't even see it as being broken. Just like, relationships, marriages, and all the crazy sex. That person is being broken every night, every whatever. And if you don't have enough to you to recover and go through that recovery process, that type of relationship, that's built into marriages, built into boyfriend and girlfriend, and even people who just go and do whatever, that over time will break the shit out of you and cause you to die. That's essentially what relationships are when somebody is taking your resources, even with your consent. Destruction is built into relationships. So how will you put yourself back together when the environment breaks you? That's going to be the harshest lesson of all. When the environment comes to you and it breaks you, how will you put yourself back together again? That's the ultimate question you need to ask yourself. And your friends can't save you. No amount of protection from somebody else can save you. Even you trying to protect yourself is not going to work. Because if you try to protect yourself, there's no telling. See, here's the thing. When I say, okay, move from here to there or whatever, you're in Florida, well, yeah, you should move. Okay, if you can't. But the thing is that it's not even now the tornadoes and the hurricanes. That's one aspect of protection. But then remember, we're going into infrasound. We're going into invisible frequencies that you can't even see, but some people can feel them and hear them. And that is when you don't see the hurricane coming through, but there is a frequency that's sent out on some level, then how are you going to put yourself together when you can't even protect yourself from it? Really, you have to be in the most amazing, strongest state of existence at the time of that frequency change. That's when I figured out, oh shit, yeah, we're done. It's not we, but many people are done because they don't have the conditioning. They don't have enough conditioning. You really had to stick with my information the last 7 years and evolve with me to be conditioned for what's about to happen or what is happening at this point. Okay? And I know I'm being really extreme, but what else is going to happen? I mean, you think the system again is going to bring in all these hurricanes and tornadoes and just completely demolish the infrastructure? Or they got to get rid of the people first, some of the people, and get that process going so then they can go and repurpose places that had so many useless eaters, whoever they are. Okay? And so there is a method to the madness. And so even if you try and protect yourself, it's not going to work. Do you have what it takes to physiologically and intellectually put yourself back together when the environment breaks you, if you even survive? Wow. If you think the system is trying to destroy your family, you've already destroyed your family because you never took accountability for your family. The system granted your wishes and even made you realize them sooner. You wanted pain-free? Don't worry. You will sign up for pain-free. Evolution is not pain-free. It is a conditioning process. Okay, that's when I figured out, shit. People are in for some hell right now. They will be. And so, yeah, RPM is also revolutions and rotations. It's both. And so then this is what I figured out. And conditioning from infrasound is like a microbial boot camp, Delta Force. So remember the Delta variant a couple years ago or last year? That was infrasound. That was a Delta infrasound. Delta Force is a type of frequency or a military association that is so high level in their conditioning for pain and strategy and intel that's like they go through their own pain of boot camp. Like when I went through basic training in the Air Force, it was nothing like Delta Force or any of even the Army or the Marines or even the Navy for that matter. Air Force basic training is like a summer day camp for most of those organizations. because they're really trying to, they want to toughen you up, but not break you, because they need your mind. That's what the Air Force is. It's more for the people with the mind for pushing the buttons and putting things together and all of that. And it's a different type of military versus the Marine Corps, where you need brute strength and you need to be a robot. They build you up or they break you down and they build you back up again. That's the Marine Corps, even the Army. And the Navy, I'm sure on some level, A and B school. And then you have the Coast Guard, okay? But when you think about infrasound and the different alpha, beta, gamma, all this, I'm telling you, COVID-19 was a conditioning infrasound that causes then pandemics. And it's like a microbial boot camp. You're going to be releasing demons. And then people have to protect themselves from the demons. And so the mask is the representation of protecting you from the demons that are being released from your body. So can you guys hear me okay? If you can, great. If you can't, you'll let me know. I'm just wanted to get some feedback because my husband tried to call in and I answered it. Sometimes it's misaligned with the sound and the picture. So, but let me know if you're still on. If not, no worries. I'll just deal with it. I might sound like a movie in Japanese movie. The karate kung fu movies. And so, yeah, happy anniversary. Thank you. And so, let me see something. Give me 1 minute. I'm just going to see something real quick. Okay. Oh, okay. Let me see something. Okay. Okay, good. So it does sound okay. All right. Never mind. All right. Okay, thank you. I just didn't know if they fixed that. Okay, so if you don't want to be altered within a replicating mRNA, thank you, Tanya, you must learn how to release those demons. All right, so everyone is afraid of what's in the food supply. They're afraid of the public health therapies. They're afraid of the air, the water, the contrails, chemtrails, whatever. And so they're so afraid of mRNA, messenger RNA. And so if you don't want to be altered within a replicating mRNA, you must learn how to release those demons. And if you resist sickness and not support it correctly, then yeah, you won't survive. And so your original blueprint is trying to come to surface. And thank you, Audrey. Yeah, then you won't survive. Your original blueprint is trying to come to surface. And it's also trying to get rid of the damage in your body. That's why you're sick. So there's so many people right now who are sick. And I see it all over my Facebook. There's people in my town that are sick. There's people in other states that are so sick. Yeah, we're in a climate change. It was fall just yesterday or the day before. And so the frequencies changed. And allegedly there's like Brexit or something. Okay, on 9/23. I don't know how true that is. I don't follow that too much. But yeah, so your original blueprint is trying to come to surface, and it's also trying to get rid of the damage in your body. That's why you're sick. And when you keep recommending cures, you hold that damage inside, and you will continue to be sick until you treat yourself out of existence. And that's what's going on. And that's what people are being set up for. Okay, so they've been, the last 3 years, they've had a slow boil, stuff comes to surface, they keep treating it, and then at some point, when all the conditions are right, and then the environment accelerates even more so, they may not survive because they've treated themselves the last 3 years so aggressively that growth from the offspring, from antibiotic and probiotic coming together, developing an offspring, that offspring is still in the body, it's still stuck in the body, and then it wakes up. And when that offspring wake up, they are formidable and they take over. Okay? And when they take over, they eat everything in sight. Like Pac-Man. And so that's what some people have done to themselves. They have treated themselves to such a degree the last 3 years. They didn't stay home and stay safe. They didn't release the demons. They kept treating themselves. They developed more demons. And so then when the conditions become even more aggressive, they won't have the infrastructure or the conditioning to handle the aggressive changes. And yesterday, I felt my heartbeat yesterday a lot when I was out there. Again, I was zipping around like I was on some kind of live wire. Like literally, I was so energetic. Very clear-headed, completely energetic. To the point of where it was just like I was high off the environment. It was like being on some kind of upper when I was out there on the boat with my husband, out there in the community. And it was such a trip. Okay? And I felt my heartbeat too, along with that. But remember, I have the strength of like 1,000,000 horses type of thing. And so my heart can beat that fast and it won't rupture. Nothing will break because I've conditioned myself to eat the food, release the demons, rest when I needed to, sleep when I needed to. I didn't overdo it. I didn't weaken my system with anything else like drugs or alcohol, really. I mean, the 3 shots back in July was really nothing, or was it August? I'm sorry. Was really nothing because I released the demons and went through the hives and then also felt all the different stuff and went through that whole Jello incident with the heartburn. And so I released those demons of like the 4 humors that are the demons and the devil, the accountability. Okay? And so I already faced demons the last 7 years, which is why I could eat anything in the food supply and still keep to the original blueprint and with more intelligence. I don't have to be anyone else's science experiment. I've served my country the last 50 years. Now it's time for me to become smarter and aggressively more adaptable. And I can still keep the physiological blueprint of the body and still become increasingly more intellectually aware. If you choose not to release those demons and starve yourself, it doesn't matter what you do or do not do. You hold those alterations within. And when you have children, those children carry those alterations. It is your responsibility to release alterations to your genome. And then your children must learn how to take responsibility for their own genome or become somebody else's science experiment. Again, it's not just copying what mom and dad have done, because you're not going to get the luxury of conditioning your kids to deal with the environment. The state that their body is in, whether it's a child or an adult or an elderly person, better be equipped enough to handle some aggressive major conditioning, such as an aggressive environment, such as what we're entering into, if not already entered into. That's what now these parents have to figure out, and these children and these elderly people, they have to figure out. Well, they won't have to figure it out. It's either going to happen or it's not. Either you're going to survive the environment or you won't. You've had plenty of indicators and you had plenty of time to figure out how you're going to adapt and release and not take on more demons. And so you had 3 years to figure it out. And you had 7 years with my information. I was trying to tell you guys, you got to really figure out how to eat off food, not treat disease. Try to get off your drugs if you can. I understand everything is a process. But figure out a way to how to open up your immune system and feel the pain without trying to treat it if possible. And everything is a transition. And so we're not going to get the luxury of giving people the time to condition for the environment. The conditions of the environment are going to be so aggressive that, because you really think they're going to draw it out? I mean, 2030 is like 7 years away, maybe even less than that. Well, 7 years. But you figure the next 2 years, if you think of all the things that have to happen, the destruction, the rebuilding, the reconfiguration, and then all the different campaigns, and everyone's waking up, and what are they going to do when they wake up? I mean, the system is juggling so much. That's why they're watching everyone's Facebook. They're seeing how awake we are and how awake you are, and what you can do in response, and then also keep track of so many different factions out there who are so extreme. Okay, and then people popping off. And, and so there's a lot for the system to juggle. And so anyways, so they're going to ramp it up. They already said they're moving up 2030. They're moving up UN Agenda 2030. What does that mean? We could already be going into 6G, even though only half of like the world's on 5G, the other half isn't. Once they get everybody on 5G, then it's conditioning for the 6G, and then the 7G, and then the 8G. What clued me in at that was going to be probably a factor. Because remember, I was taking devil's advocate a couple of years ago, and I said, oh, don't be afraid of the Wi-Fi and the grid. Blah, blah, blah. So I was taking devil's advocates. Everyone's like, oh, I'm so EMF sensitive. And YouTube took down that video where I was taking major devil's advocate. I'm like, why do they do that? I was taking their side on some level. Because we're going to have 5G. So if the 5G is not dangerous, then why would they take down the videos, that says that it wasn't dangerous? So I was just agreeing with them. And then I realized that, oh yeah, it is on some level when people are not conditioned to deal with all the other factors that go along with it. It's not just the 5G. It's also the conditioning to get to the next level, the next level, the next level. And so, yeah, they knew it was dangerous, but you couldn't say it was and you couldn't say it wasn't because you had a condition for it. But they couldn't take a side because it's about who can handle the conditioning process. So that was a major awareness when even YouTube took down my video of me agreeing with them, or what I think was agreeing with them, by saying nothing is dangerous because they said, no, 5G is not dangerous. I mean, it isn't if you can handle it. But those that can't handle it, well, it's dangerous to them. So you really couldn't say it wasn't across the board because that would not be true. You see what I'm saying? That's why the system can play both sides, because they understand some people can handle it, some people can't. And who is the one to say what is toxic, what is not? It's you that have to determine how you're going to deal with the process to adapt. And again, no one can say across the board anything is dangerous or completely safe 100%. Okay? And so that's when I figured out, oh shit. And so it's your responsibility to release the alterations to your genome, and then your children must learn how to take responsibility for their own genome or become somebody else's science experiment. And so when you think about, well, what happens if I grow an arm or another leg? Blah, blah. Well, you're a bipedal, okay? You're a human. What do humans have? They have 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose, a mouth, a certain amount of teeth, whatever it is. You have a brain. You have 12 different systems. You have 10 digits, but we're seeing now alterations to the genome. Could you say that kid that has 16 fingers and whatever, are they less than human? No, they have alterations to their genome. It doesn't make them less than. But if they decided that they want to become whole again and release the alterations to their genome, okay, see, that's the thing, is that when you do the J world and you release all the excessive programming that altered your genes to begin with, what are you left with? Is the 10 fingers and 10 toes the original blueprint? Well, I released a lot of my demons. I'm not feeling crazily sexual. I'm not even emotional. I don't really have any fear or anxiety. I don't even have some of the nuances that I picked up in different cultures. Like, I used to be like saying, hey, y'all, or maybe I do occasionally, but there's certain things that I picked up through my travels with vernacular, and I don't even remember what the hell those are anymore, okay? And I still have my fingers, so I have 10 fingers, I have 10 toes, I have boobs, okay, will they fall off later? I have no idea. And so, but I'm still in this process, and I'm still exposed to people who've been altered on some level, but for whatever reason, I released whatever alterations that could have caused anomalies. Okay? And so when you develop anomalies in your genetic line, let's say you have, dwarfism. Is that really an anomaly, or is that an actual race? Well, anything can be a race if you keep reproducing the same genetic predispositions. But if that person was to release the demons and ate a bunch of food and dealt with the pain of the body going to whatever form maybe it originally was as a bipedal, but what would the original? Was the size be original? Short versus tall? I mean, that's the thing that we're trying. That's the thing. Who came first? What came first? But we see that we hear about evolution, and we know that the monkeys and the gorillas, whatever, are our ancestors, right? That then became more advanced through hybridization and evolution and all those thousands of years of just stuff. And so I said, well, what's the original human or something? I said, why do humans only have 2 legs, arms, and eyes, whatever, when more could be more effective, or in the case of eyes and ears, where more advancement would be more effective, as in tetrachromatic vision. Basically, because we are the ancestors of bilateral organisms with two legs, arms, and eyes. And so we are the ancestors of bilateral organisms. Why do humans? But almost all the theories suggest that bipedalism is an adaptation to getting around on land. It's clear that early bipeds evolved when savanna grasslands became increasingly common as forests retreated 4.8 million years ago. Walking on two legs made it easier to forage and travel on the grounds. The human genome is the completed set of instructions required to create a human being. Okay, then you can add alterations to it, but to what degree are the alterations? And so you look, I had pictures where I don't have any filters, of course, of yesterday, and I don't see any gray coming through. Now, I did see one time the other day a hair that was black and then it was white at the end. So that white at the end showed that the black was coming in on top of the white. Now that is weird, because I'm thinking like maybe it's the other way around, that this is a programming and the white would be the original. I don't know. We don't know what the chicken or the egg. So that's why we're watching things happen as they happen. Okay? And so that's why I do the Sunday selfies, or do the selfies to show you my face. No, I don't smile. I'm not trying to sell you any image. I just want to show you what I look like. Okay? And then, and so now with this whole thing with accusations. Now I know people have an issue with accusations. I know Audrey posted a video. I didn't want to respond to the video because I'm like, I get where she's coming from, because it kind of sucks to be accused of something and then have everyone think something. But then it's your job to then go and correct the record. It's then when you're convicted and put in jail for something, that just for an accusation is where, yeah, you lose your freedom. But I think with where Margaret Thatcher was coming from is that it's tough when you don't have what it takes to defend yourself. Okay? That when someone accuses you of something and then everyone thinks that you are this, then you lost your freedom because you can't go anywhere without somebody accusing you or thinking that you did something. And that's why we have a justice system, a court system. So that way, if it is something that requires a jury and a due process, that we have that whole system, because we can't just accuse people without due process. And so I said accusations forces everyone to reconsider their past, present, and future behaviors. This concept forces people to see what they were blind to for years. It forces everyone to be held accountable for what they say or what they thought that was normal and acceptable. Freedom is the ability to acknowledge the method behind the madness. Okay, I'm telling you, it was tough for me being accused of killing somebody that I never did. They were in hospice, and no matter what Hail Mary they were going to do, they were going to fucking die anyways. And we don't know if that actually prolonged that person's life or it shortened it. But it doesn't even matter. That person was expected to die. They were in hospice. They were untreatable. But to be accused that I destroyed someone was a very hard situation to face, but I had to face it because I got involved with somebody else's health process. And that's what all these herbalists and people who get involved with people's health process, that's what they're facing. When someone dies because they recommended them, all the herbs and the extracts and the detoxes and all the operations and the oncology, well, yeah, you have malpractice. But when you get involved in someone's health drama, people will blame you left and right because they can't blame themselves. They took no accountability for fucking centuries. And so it was actually very good that they accused me of that, because then I had to go and do the work to then absolve myself or prove that I wasn't the one that fucking killed him. It was the system that you all supported, that everyone supported. No different than my dog. I didn't kill my dog. She never died in my hands. She died through a veterinary's hands. You see what I'm saying? Okay? And so that's what we have to now face, is that we've supported a system that was into destruction, that you've already accepted for so many years. How soon? Well, that's then you got to look at what was FDA approved. What was that person's background at the time? What were they categorized as? What was their lifestyle belief system? There's so many factors. And so accusations forces everyone to reconsider their past, present, and future behaviors. And so Russell Brand is having to face and account for his past. And there is evidence to show that he has crossed boundaries. To what degree, where it would be like in jail and all of that? Well, if someone wants to bring forth a case from 20 years ago, they will. And there's enough evidence to show that he has the capability to do that if he was behind closed doors. So when someone does something in front of camera, when I say shit, and talk about stuff on Facebook Live, and it's normal to me because of my principles. People can spin it how they want to, but I also can spin it right back to my position again and make you look like the freaking enemy. Well, how is he going to spin those videos that he went and just accosted himself onto a interviewer on camera that wasn't even televised, but now it's coming out? Okay? And so he's going to have to account for how he behaved and his promiscuity and his beliefs around women and then he went into anti-government. He set himself up. Once you bite the hand that feeds you, they gave you so much latitude. Then you bite the hand that feeds you because you're making money off that. They're not going to let you get away with that. So him and Andrew Tate, are they going to find a way to account for their sins? Are they going to find a way to apologize for how they were? And teach the men and the women that follow them, maybe not go down this road. Maybe not assume that because you got away with it doesn't mean that it was right. Okay? And so this concept of accusations forces people to see what they were blind to for years. It forces everyone to be held accountable for what they thought was normal and acceptable. Freedom is the ability to acknowledge the method behind the madness. And so, hey, if everyone wants to accuse people of stuff, fine, accuse them. Then you better be articulate enough to defend yourself and provide evidence. And be strong in the face of so much opposition for whatever reason the opposition is. And that's what tests people's mettle, mettle. That's what tests their resolve, their survivability. I've seen people in the flat earth world where they were so pro flat earth. A lady, she finally had to pull herself out of the flat earth community because she could not handle the trolls. She could not handle the backlash. I mean, you seriously have to really be so committed to that religion of flat earth to take the abuse from those that oppose that information. And even then, how can you prove it? How do you prove the earth is flat? And what do you get from that? Proving the earth is flat. What return on investment? I mean, and so then people realize, oh, well, it's not really worth the abuse to go and try to uphold a religion that there's going to be backlash. But what do I get from upholding my belief system that people don't have to die someday? And that pain is not horrible as long as you support it. And I didn't kill anybody. And I didn't kill my fucking dog. Well, because I had proof. I didn't. If they really wanted to, they can go and research how my dog died. I already have the place already did it. People can go research that if they want to. They had to go and give her the shot. But she was suffering. Well, yeah, people suffer to fucking live. To what degree suffering should be allowed? Well, she still survived it. It wasn't enjoyable for any of us. But suffering isn't enjoyable. But should we do it to somebody else? No. That's where I learned that I can't handle that much suffering. Now, she could if I don't know. I made that choice for her, my dog. Could she have handled it? I don't think I could have handled it because it was a lot. It was a lot. I was losing sleep. I was getting sick. I was just fucking tortured through that process. But could she survive that process? There's no fucking telling. We don't have enough evidence to show that. And so then I showed what happens when your dog or your animal tries to survive all the treatments when they get the next energy frequency shift that's going to force the body to push out the damage. All the antibiotics, all the damaged cells from the drills and the spays and the surgery. And then you're left with the original trauma. And then you have to go and come back from that trauma. And that's why I'm saying I don't support the veterinary system, the surgical system, and even the medical, holistic, oncology, herbalist system. I'm done with that system, and I can prove to you. People have seen it. One person saw the 2 gaping holes. And I didn't do that. I don't have those kind of instruments, and I'm not sadistic like the fucking veterinary system is, like the surgical system is. I'm not sadistic. I was trying to save my fucking dog, but I didn't fucking kill her. I didn't kill Bruce Wilmot. I didn't kill my fucking dog. I'm not trying to kill anybody. You guys already support the system of destruction. And so I put everything, responsibility right back in all of your laps. And many people do not like the accountability. And so that's worth defending versus defending flat earth, which absolutely has no real return on that investment. Really, there is no return on that investment except to get everybody all like riled up, and that's about it. Then you got to deal with the trolls. And many people cannot handle standing up for what they believe in because really there was no point to it. They were just bored. But they were not committed to that belief system. And if they were, what point would it be? What's the point? You're not saving anyone's life from that belief system. And so, when I wanted to prove to you that the Georgia Guidestones is Rosicrucian, oh God. So I said, oh God, hold on. I'm eating spaghetti today because I feel hungry. There is nothing to be scared of. Just understand my book, my intention to survive this, and understand the purpose of where we're going. It's a good thing if you understand what's going on. It really is. Robert C. Christian, R.C. Christian. The pen name of the man credited with creating the Georgia Guidestones is Robert C. Christian. He paid the L. Burton Granite Finishing Company to build the stones for some loyal Americans, but he insisted on remaining anonymous. Rosicrucian, home to the largest collection of Egyptian artifacts. This is in San Jose, California, on exhibit in Western North America. The Rosicrucian Egyptian Museum is open Friday to whatever. Okay? And then I said Blue Hills is an elementary school out there. I think it's Cupertino, Saratoga, California. And Blue Hills that's who took me to the Rosicrucian. Blue Hills Elementary School took us to the Rosicrucian Museum when we were in maybe 3rd grade, 4th grade. It was never a secret society. They are in San Jose, California. Everything is hidden in plain sight. But you know how people are. Too distracted. Too tunneled. Disbelieve. Of course, things are in code and people are anonymous. They tell you but don't tell you. You've got to be smarter than the average person. So Robert C. Christian, R.C. Christian, Rosicrucian. Okay, and they actually had... And so Rosicrucian also is part of that. How did I connect all those? Because it sounds like, see, and then it says like Christian Rosencrantz. R.C. Christian, Christian Rosencrantz. There's that connection. According, and I said Marburg frequency, and I'll tell you why. According to some researchers, Christian Rosencreuz was the last descendant of the Germelhausen, a German family which flourished in the 13th century. Their castle stood in the Thuringian forest on the border of Hesse, and they had embraced Albigensian Cathar doctrines, combining Gnostic and Christian beliefs. The whole family was put to death by Conrad von Marburg, except for the youngest son, who was only 5 years old. He was carried away secretly by a monk who was in Albigensian, adept from Languedoc. The child was placed in a monastery, which has already come under influence of the Albigenses, where he was educated and made the acquaintance of the 4 other brothers who were later to be associated with him in the founding of the Rosicrucian Brotherhood. His account derives from oral tradition. That's why orphans are so lucrative. Okay? We're reliving history and pushing humanity forward. I was an orphan in the Vietnam War. Okay? An orphan, trained in a very specific way. And that's what I showed you, the thing with the whole, all those Charles Manson stuff. Okay? Because Charles Manson was trained in a very specific way. He had a very specific childhood. I wasn't shown too much brutality in the way that he was shown, because that's how he ended up to be where he was. I was shown in a different way. My parents let the system or the environment shape me, where there was some amount of control. And then whatever choices I made, I had to account for them and face them and pull myself out, whatever choices that I made. But during my childhood, it was a controlled type of training through the different institutions, through even my peers, through the legal system, and even just through growing up. Okay? And so that's why orphans are so lucrative. They push society forward if trained by the right people. So the coincidences don't escape me. And so I knew stuff was not completely normal in my world as far as everybody else. And I chased after knowledge like it was water and food. I hung out with very smart people when I was in my 20s and 30s, and they were always older than me. Always people older than me. Yeah, I wanted the American dream of a big family, a nice house, and a bunch of cars, but that was not ever my purpose. It was not my cards. It was gathering knowledge and experiences and understanding so many different types of people, moving from place to place, experiencing the world. And I was on a religious sabbatical too. I was looking for why does everyone is so like devout to Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism. And I did go to religious comparative classes in City College, but I wanted to understand why people are so devout. And they found a home around all these different people who then prayed to a god or resisted somebody. And it was just like, I wanted to figure it out. What the hell? And then I needed to settle down and gather my thoughts and organize my experiences. But I had to fight for that position. Okay, I was even in a Jesus cult that I never really adopted because it wasn't me. It was somebody else. It was a friend of my family's. And that was her gig, but it was never my gig. I wasn't going to adopt that. I was still questioning it. I was raised Jewish. I'm not going to believe that Jesus was a savior to anyone or anything. That was just not where what I was raised with. And we did go to temple. And right now we're in Kol Nidre, Yom Kippur. And so that's right now what the holiday is today at this point. But I needed to settle down and gather my thoughts and organize my experiences. But I had to fight for that position. I had to fight for that type of monastic experience. My life right now is like a monastery. I purposely made it that way. Though it's not literally a monastery, but I am studying the world. I am studying the world, and mostly I'm solitary. I like the silence of my thoughts, as well as listening and hearing and reading other ideas, and even my own ideas, okay? I gotta pee. I mean, what else are you gonna do, right? I mean, what else are you going to do? I'm not into distractions. I've done all that the last 50 years. We are entering into a new world. Many of us need to survive this. Not all of us will, but some might have a chance. No different than so many kids who were under aggressive programming, even in the 80s, Silicon Valley. Some of you know who made it in the mainstream public figures, and I've lived next door to public figures in the tech world. Others are my class that worked at CNN or works at CNN, and they live, over there in China. Others are movers and shakers in their respective fields, and good for them. We were all trained, and others became lost. Like there's people in my junior high that I was looking for on the internet, can't find them. Okay, others became lost and fell between the cracks of society, or they have a family, or they've had a past. Criminal convictions on certain things. And some made it to the news where like, wow, this person ended up like that. Holy shit. And others like their family looks like the quintessential Beaver Cleaver Brady Bunch. But again, they were conditioned for that. But now instead of them leaving their gated communities and homogenized households, the environment is going to come to them. Will they be able to survive it? Well, that's what we're going to find out. And so not everybody will survive this great reset, but some will. And so to my conspiracy world, I'm talking to you. If you're in the conspiracy world, you have a better chance to survive this because you know what's going on. But just simply exposing the plan is not enough. People have died exposing the plan because they never took care of themselves. They put all their energy in exposing everything, but they never fucking changed a damn thing in their life. And so that's how you want to go out. Then all what you have done was a waste of time. Yet everything is intentional. And you're right about everything. So fucking survive it. Okay? So now that you know you're right, and I'll tell you, you're absolutely right. Not that you need me to tell you this. You already know this. You want the system to confirm it and tell your friends that that's what they're doing. They're not going to fucking do that. But if you know, as you know in your gut, what we are discovering in the conspiracy world, it was absolutely correct. Even though others don't believe it, you know it. How are you going to survive it? What are you going to do? And do you really think plying yourself with herbs and extracts and detoxes and operations and wearing protective gear is really going to help you in this situation? Or maybe it wasn't the Wi-Fi that you need to run away from. It wasn't the radiation you need to run away from. It wasn't the cell towers you need to run away from. It wasn't taking on all the herbs and extracts and diets that you needed to do. You needed to actually face the demons of accountability. Face the pain. You need to sleep with your phone. Turn your Wi-Fi back on. Embrace a different thought process. Embrace life. Not oncologize it. Not remedy it away. Not herbalize it. Not justify destroying it. But again, that's the thing, is you can't tell people this. If that's what they think is going to work and it gives them absolution and the whole conspiracy world was just another outlet for them because they couldn't do anything else, that's what the system does. They give you whatever the hell you want. Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. And so if you feel connected to others that are suffering along with you, that are trying to alleviate their suffering by any means possible, the system will give you your absolution, even through the conspiracy world. And again, now that you know that you're right, but again, you want the system to confirm that you're right. You want your mommy and daddy to say, yeah, Johnny, Billy, Susie, you're right. Or we're wrong. That's a child. That's a child. Let me just make sure. Let me go look at something real quick. Did I? Oh yeah. I did not listen to the whole thing about the whole Charles Manson, just his childhood and then up to a specific point. Okay, so listen to the beginning of the whole Charles Manson, that video that I posted. But as it gets to be more like a little graphic, I'm just like, okay, it's a little bit gratuitous. But I wanted to see his childhood, what he was raised with. But he knew when the interviewer asked him, well, you had a bad childhood, right? You had a tragic childhood. And he's like, kids don't know the childhood they have. They don't know. And so that's the thing, when you're raised with something that is like a programming that is so different than somebody else's, and nothing that could be put, there's no marks on you and there's no evidence, but it's all psychological and all that, then you're running away to save yourself because that's going to be your defense mechanism. That's going to be the way you're going to save yourself, is by running away. Okay? And that will be a thing that will save people when they leave situations that are so bad. And so when you contrive a situation that's so bad relative to like your next door neighbors, and there's no marks on you, there's no evidence, there's no major literal brutality, and you're just leaving, then you're gonna remember those feelings that someone is playing psychological games, and yeah, even certain physical games with you, and you'll remember those ones, and you'll leave. It might take you 20 years to do it. It might take you 5 years to do it. It might even take you 2 years to do it. Or it might even take, you may endure it for maybe a couple years, and then you're like, you know what? I can't do it even for this person. Okay? That's what conditioning someone to be prepared for the predators out there in the world, who are almost so undetectable and so cunning in how they get their victims. And you won't see them until you remember the feelings. And at first you'll accept it because that's what you did, but then you have to then find something within yourself to leave that situation and never get into that situation again. And sometimes there's situations that you haven't experienced that are still very cunning and very predatory. But it's the opposite of someone hurting you and being mean to you or whatever. It's someone that loves you to death, that gives you whatever you want, finds every way to get into your world by any means possible. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're not who you are, you're somebody else. You are now following somebody else. You're a minion to somebody else, doing whatever they want. And they had no intention of doing anything that you had intended. They turned you into a disciple of their situation. That's how quick predation can be when it's not in the obvious forms. And you have to experience that. You can't just tell someone, oh, well. And if that's where you want to end up, okay. And then you're working for somebody else and you're, a minion to somebody else. And then you lost every sense of who you thought you were. That's your own fault because you took all the gifts. You took all the gifts. You melded into their life. You turned into a carbon copy of them. And you even did things against your own body, mind, and spirit in order to be like them. That's another predation that you have to also recognize. But again, you have to experience it. And then shake your head, be like, oh my God. And so I recognize that in the J world, when I'm around people who are next to me, they were trying to take over in so many different ways. You saw all of how that all went down. I know I look like the bad guy when I'm like, okay, you're gone, moderator. You're gone, moderator. Okay, I'm not, no one next to me. I'm blocking this person. I'm not working with this person. I'm done. And you saw what I had to do. And you're like, wow, she was so loyal to you. What is it? People are destroying those that were loyal to them or whatever. No. That's what it looks like on the outside. But no one understands the nuances of any relationship. And when relationships have to end, there's so many different reasons. And it's not just like their fault or my fault. It was just that we had two different ways of doing things, conflicts. And when you have the nice lovey wars that are brewing with undercurrents that eventually turn into resentment, and somebody's getting cannibalized in a nice way, that they've been softened and seduced by the support because you asked for it, because you were weak. You felt desperate. I remember what it felt like when I was relying on my moderators, when I was relying on people next to me. I was so scared and so desperate for validation. I left myself open. And they came right in. And so you saw that. And then I had to disengage. Like, oh, no, now you just use them. People who, what is it? People don't walk away from you unless they're used you or some shit. And I've seen that all over fucking Facebook. No, people walk away because they realize that you're both using each other. And there was always a difference of how you wanted to end up. And someone had to walk away to save themselves. And to save the other person, but really to save themselves. Both had to walk away. Okay? And so predatory behaviors are not always like, oh, someone's mean and they're hitting you and they're talking smack to you. No, they can, predatory behaviors can be somebody so overwhelmed with love and kindness that they don't see danger for what it is, because they thought predatory behaviors was abuse and hitting and stern talking and even yelling. But they never saw love and kindness and absolute acceptance was also predatory. They lured you in with the things they knew how to do. And that's when you realize, when you wake up to that, then you see how the system has manipulated the shit out of everybody. But they knew that's what you wanted. You wanted the love and kindness and the love, and all the gifts and all the glory and the baubles and the shiny objects and the Botox. They gave you what you wanted. Now you got to pay for it. Judgment Day. Oh, I'll tell you, I had 7 years of experiencing everything you can imagine when it comes to all of this. But I wanted to show you that with Charles Manson. Oh, yeah. And the Rosicrucian. Rosencrantz. Was it Richard Rosencrantz? No. Christian Rosencrantz. Christian Rosencrantz. R.C. Christian. R.C. Christian. See, come on. Come on. It was somebody, part of the Rosicrucian, that built those pillars over there that is now knocked down in Georgia. All right. And so hey, John, nice to see you. And Kim and Audrey and Tanya. Okay, what's the downfall of humans? Lack of experience, lack of experience and accountability, lack of respect and denial. Jeez, I hate these talk to texts. I swear. All right, give me 1 second. Lack of experience and accountability, lack of respect and denial. And I don't blame you for being in denial. Sometimes we want to have control when we don't. It's so hard to admit you have no control over the situation. You had to recondition yourself. And a while ago, some people could potentially recondition themselves in the short term if they survive the frequency changes, the aggressive ones. But all in all, when you are given a chance of survival and showing if you don't, something will happen. If you don't choose wisely, people live and die with their choices. And so those of you who stick around with my information and you didn't resist it so much and you figured out my methods was how it saved me during all these different times, you have a chance. You've conditioned with the food. You're not afraid of food. You're not afraid of water. You're not afraid of meat, milk, and cheese, and eggs. You might have to go transition with the whole drug thing, and I get it, okay? But you understand you have to pull out the programming. Literally, you have to do that. You don't have to televise to anybody you're doing that, but that's what I had to do. Because sometimes you have to do that. It's not always that you can use food to do that. Sometimes you have to really do that. And so you know that. And so you have conditioned yourself to deal with these frequency changes. I remember feeling the heat, and I remember feeling the pixelation of the heat from my top of my head all the way down to my shoulders and all the different places. And it was the heat. And I remember that. And then there was the coughing, it was the sneezing, the blowing the nose, and it was the pain, and it was the heat. It was the heat. It was the rashes. Okay. And I had a little bit of a pimple on my left armpit this last round. And I think it's kind of gone now. But I mean, yeah, there was another frequency change that caused the major growth. Okay. And so I've had that. And so now, even if you shut your phone off or put it on airplane mode, the frequency and radiation are still being emitted in your community. You do not live in a bubble or a vacuum. So this is for October 4th and October 11th. I will face the frequency. I will feel whatever I must feel that day or days later, I will feed it. Those of you who are mobile and en route to wherever, be very careful that day. No telling how these frequencies will affect people driving and flying. Some people will be affected right away. Others, it will take days later or resurgence in a diagnosable condition. Remember, the environment hits everybody differently. Okay? And so why would October 4th and October 11th be any different than any other day of frequency change? Because now they're telling you. We're doing a system-wide test of 5 billion phones. That's different than just having it be 9/24 or be 9/23, the autumn equinox. That's different than July 4th weekend and the frequencies. Now when they're telling you there's going to be a system-wide test, that should be a clue to the conspiracy world. There's going to be a little bit more than what's been given to the last 3 years. And there'll always be another story. Marburg virus, the Burning Man people potentially, new storms, the V's, whatever. They're saying people are going to get V's. Again, a potential another pandemic, COVID resurgence. Even I've been seeing on Facebook Reels, they're saying another COVID resurgence. Remember, they signed off in April of 2023 or 2022, or was it 2023, that no more COVID pandemic. That's what Biden said. And they're saying now there's a resurgence. It's coming again. Well, where do you think it comes from? Infrasound. Infrasound. And so, let me just do this. I'll go to the infrasound in a minute. All press is the system's way of giving you warnings. What's to come? What is coming? Everyone becomes useful to the system when the system has given them so much. And so they're doing this so you pay attention even more, what they're doing with Russell Brand. They're exposing everyone so that way people pay attention to what is being done. Okay, so this whole emergency alert system is no different than what they're doing with Russell Brand, or even with me, or even with Tate. Okay, they're all just giving us an option to absolve ourselves and explain ourselves, and even make things right. All right? And so when you're told that, okay, we're going to have a weather alert system, and it's going to be probably more aggressive, but they're not telling you that, but you can read between the lines, then maybe you might now, if you can survive it, you'll embrace the pain around it without treating it. Because the next system alert, it won't even be a system alert, it'll just be a higher frequency. But now you're being given a chance to potentially survive this one. Okay? And so, yeah. So no matter what the system is exposing you to, no matter how much press, they gave me that much press, they gave Russell Brand that much press, they gave Andrew Tate a lot of press, they're trying to show you everything. Because everyone has something to expose as far as what the government's doing. How you characterize is up to you, but also how we've characterized and what we've behaved and what we've done the last 20 years of our life, and can we change? Can we see the errors of our ways? And so what is more humane? Suffering to live with suffering to be less and less, so as long as you support the suffering correctly, or feel amazing and then just keel over dead and die suddenly, right? So you are in that fork in the road. Some of you will take my advice and suffer to live and change your life so you can survive this great reset if you can handle the energy conversion, but not everybody can. Others of you will cure yourself out of existence until you die suddenly, and of course blaming somebody. In the meantime, you're trying to save the world. You only have but two choices. Again, save you, life, others, death, the power of choice. Then I said secret religions don't exist. So some people say, there's people on my Facebook that I do like, and I know they have their own issues with stuff, and they're very religious, and I get it. And they've followed me for a while. They've sent me supportive comments, and I appreciate that. But they're saying, like, I belong to a religion. It's not secret. It's like, da 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 da. And I said, secret religions don't exist. The fact you know about it takes away the secrecy. What does being secrecy mean, or being hidden or concealed? The condition of being hidden or concealed, the habit or practice of keeping secrets or maintaining privacy or concealment. Well, they're telling you, people don't want to believe it. They're like, no, the government can't do that. The government won't do that. My parents wouldn't do that. My mom wouldn't do that. My dad wouldn't. What the fuck they did? When people don't believe you, you try to tell them. They blame you for not telling them. They say you're lying. So they say, yeah, the government's doing this for whatever reason. There's a reason why. You don't really care why, but there's a reason why. People don't agree with the reason why. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. They're doing this because there's a reason. And you have to be open enough to understand the reason. So when people don't believe you, you try to tell them. They blame you for not telling them. They say you're lying. So you can't tell people anything. So then they think you're being secret because they don't believe it. That's how fucked up humanity is right now. When they blame you. That's what I'm saying. You can't win with people who don't consider all the information. I know exactly what the system is doing. They've been telling you for years, but you couldn't believe it. You didn't believe it. You allowed somebody else to tell you that they were stupid. That's your own fucking fault, right? And when you were on the top 20 years, and so when you were on top the last 20 years, the poles have flipped. The people you laughed off was trying to warn you. People don't stay on top forever. One must learn how to share the spotlight. So when you've been making fun of me, call me a gullible conspiracy theorist, and people have out there in the mainstream, that was your choice not to believe what was going on. That was your choice. You did not want to believe, you did not want to even consider the information. That was your choice. That was the system allowing you to make the choices that will be detrimental to you now and in the future and to your family. That's what you get for laughing at somebody else who was trying to show you a different situation. And so with these frequencies, especially with video games, like when I'm playing the video games and we're all trying to figure out, we're all getting conditioned, it hurt my hands for a minute when things were going up and they don't hurt anymore. Sometimes it does when frequencies are a bit more than what I want. So I put my phone down because I'm like, oh gosh, it's a little bit more than what I want today. But the whole video game era was the conditioning for not only doing the Space Invaders and doing target types of stuff and learning how to use your hands with the mouse and all that, or with the little controllers like the Atari and the joystick. It was also a conditioning for the frequencies. Because for us to have an electronic environment, you had to be conditioned to something that was not only giving you information, but was also activating your immune system. And some could handle it, some couldn't. But it was a slow boil. The 80s was a slow boil as they kept increasing the technology and advancing the grid. So when you play video games, yes, you're getting conditioned for the frequencies and be programmed at the same time. That was the conditioning. That's the 80s. And so that's why I'm always with my phone next to my freaking head. I'm always on my phone playing with it People are like, oh, we got to go back to the 80s, put your phone away and bury it and go play outside. Okay, that's great. But that kid has to be conditioned for those frequencies. They got to be conditioned to take in information along with not only their brain, but also their body. Okay? And so infrasonic weapon. This newer technology is under investigation. It would deliver very slow, very low frequency sounds that would be inaudible, but could cause pain and disorientation. There's little medical literature on the effects of acoustic weapons on people. Well, I've seen people on my Facebook where their grandmothers were disoriented and she fainted. They don't know why, she just fainted. Let me read this. Acoustic weapons. Somebody even in a Diet Suddenly group, when I posted something like this, they're like, oh, this is a spoof. I don't believe it. And I looked at her Facebook and it's like, Jesus Christ this, Jesus Christ that. I'm like, okay. And I responded and said, I'm sorry. It's a lot to take. I understand why you would deny this information because it's too much. Oh, I completely understand why people disbelieve, because it's too much for them to even wrap their mind around. And that's the world that you live in, where people can't even wrap their mind around all this stuff that's going on. They just can't. And so acoustic weapons, also known as long-range acoustic devices and sound cannons, are devices that deliver very loud sound over long distances. This technology is used for crowd control purposes by emitting loud and painful levels of noise that may lead to significant harm to the ears, potentially causing hearing loss. Serious questions remain about safety and efficacy of acoustic weapons in the crowd control context. Well, that's one context. Imagine in other contexts, okay? And I'm not gonna read all of this, but that was like, they're showing you like the device types. The long-range acoustic device brands has a range of 8,900 meters for the intelligible speech and maximum output of 162 decibels. That's what dB is. At 1 meter, it can cause pain at 20 meters. And then there's the mosquito one, the high-pitched one that I said Marburg, right? A high-pitched sound weapon that is audible and painful to younger people while leaving older people, like 30 and older, unaffected. Well, what do you mean by unaffected? I mean, nobody in an environment that has those type of frequencies are unaffected. So maybe you don't hear it, but a kid does, like dog whistles. Then there is the infrasonic weapon. This newer technology is under investigation. It would deliver very loud, low frequency sounds that would be inaudible, but could cause pain and disorientation. And then health effects. There's a little medical literature on the effects of acoustic weapons on people. There are reports of hearing loss and prolonged ear pain or ringing, but adequate data is not available to develop consensus. However, the weapons can be indiscriminate, causing harm or pain to protesters, bystanders, even police officers themselves. Okay? And so you can read this stuff. I mean, people will, it's not, I mean, they're leaving it open. They're not saying that's being used. There's no proof. And if they are, you would never know for sure. You would never know for sure what's going on. You could only feel what is going on. And even then you couldn't prove where it came from and by who. Okay? And so everything is still speculative. And I posted, parents, are you overindulging your kid? This 4-question test can help you find out. So, yeah. And John's like, there you go, John, thank you. And so, no. So I said, if you want to survive this, you're going to have to activate your immune system. You're going to have to face the pain. And you have to feed it and pull out the programming, like I have in my book. And you're going to have to sleep with the Wi-Fi on and sleep with your phone next to your ear. And it's going to fucking hurt. And you're going to have to do that every so often. If your phone is painful to you by your head, then you do it for one night or not, or maybe for an hour, and then you put it away. And it's a conditioning. Just like taking in foods that you're allergic to, that you have to go to a doctor to do that kind of conditioning to eat a tomato that you're allergic to or milk that you're allergic to. Okay? So note, for those who are choosing to activate their immune system by sleeping with their phones and turning on their Wi-Fi or sleeping with their Wi-Fi on, remember how I said you will feel every single violation you've done to your body, such as surgeries and even having to push out offspring from all the antibiotics and drugs while you're in pain, because you will be, and you might have to and you might have to remedy it on some level to get through, eventually weaning off. Also think about your animals, what they had to go through when they were forced to go through all the operations and treatments and even antibiotics. Think about what they had to go through. That's why I've been so vocal about I won't ever get an animal again, because you don't know what you're getting. You really don't know what you're getting. Okay? Because now I feel their pain. I felt their pain. A long time ago, I tried to use the pain to save her, my dog, hoping it'd be short-lived. But the damage done to her in the veterinary system was far too great. And again, I didn't want to treat her or put her down until I had to. None of us can handle that. Maybe she could have, but I didn't want to. I made a choice. Some of you might experience that. Maybe some of you will get through it. Maybe you won't. Maybe you don't have the guts to. But your animal never asked to be put under like that. They never asked to be here. They never asked to be butchered. So judgment is coming for all of us. It came for me the last 7 years, and I survived it. Some of you never asked to get the operations because it was done to you as a child for so many reasons. Some were honorable, such as getting your teeth fixed. Others for pure cosmetic reasons or ignorance. But once you feel that, that's a reminder never to fuck up your body again, never to force your animal to do that operation ever again. I know some of you had to do that for whatever reason. I get it. But that's why I'm the way I am, because, and why not many people will be able to face what they've done to themselves, because it's too much. They've done too much damage to themselves, and it sucks. Okay? And so, 1 rotation per minute, RPM, is equal to 0.01666 whatever hertz. Conversely, 1 hertz is equal to 60 rotations per minute, or revolutions. It's either way, okay? Someone told me yesterday that was revolution, but it's both. It could be both, okay? So your immune system will hold mercenaries against you, or your own personal protection, okay? So your immune system will either hold mercenaries against you or your own personal protection, and they have investment in you because your life keeps them alive. If you hold so much of the mercenaries and little enemies against you in your immune system, then the frequencies and the rotations per minute will activate them doing what they have intended for them to do. You programmed your immune system to work for you or against you. Now you have to feed yourself if you want to survive, and you have to build up your immune system to kick out the enemy. And how do you activate your immune system? Well, you need to turn on your Wi-Fi, sit next to your phone, allow the pain to release and feed your body, and then you have a week and a half to figure out if that's worth it to you. Because remember, we're entering into October 4th. I don't know what that frequency is going to do, or even October 11th, but we're heading into some shit, okay? Because you might be holding future heart attacks and strokes once you activate your immune system. And are you prepared? Most are not. That's why my world was a conditioning process. You had to understand the energy emanating from your body and your mind and your spirit. And I had 7 years of conditioning, and I stayed with my information, and I evolved my information, and I got rid of the distractions and the mutiny. And you saw me release so many people away from me, away from my house, away from my family. I mean, my husband does what he wants, and he has people that are relatively mature and can handle their lifestyle and belief systems, and I like them and I respect them, and I'm glad they're around because it gives him, an outlet besides all my stuff, because it's a lot. My stuff is a lot, and I know it's a lot for him. And so, but that's the thing. You saw what I had to do the last 7 years in order for me to save myself, because the influences out there are so insidious. They really are. And they distract you, and sometimes they develop a mutiny against you. And so you would think I'd be mad like Ted Kaczynski. But remember, I tried to help humans, my peers, only to get attacked so viciously and relentlessly. That part of me had to understand why the system was doing what it was doing. So when you get attacked by your peers, and even by the system, then you realize that the system is doing something for a reason. You just had to understand what it was. But you had to entertain both sides, because you also felt, like I also felt, so many things. I didn't understand where it came from. And I understand why. And even the anti-V world, I had to understand that. But those are secondary antibodies. They're basically just exposing you to something that's going to develop antibodies that you would be exposed to anyways. Nothing is poison, but the thing was, you had to release all the things in your body that would work against you. And anything that's trapped in your body that is constantly playing pinball with all of your systems, you had to control your immune system. People were immunized. Not only with the therapies, but even with all of their detoxes and their herbal remedies and their food mitigation. When you're overly immunized, yeah, you're going to have antibodies eat you alive. All that energy is going to eat you alive. And if you were dieting and you took away food, and so I had to really understand everything. So now, having endured the last 7 years of bullies and predators and mocking, I had no issue with the system teaching us a lesson, even me included, as I have been intolerant at some points in my life. Ted K had it in for academia because he was antagonized by his peers in academia. Not only did he not agree with the technology and what they were potentially going to be doing, because he saw the writing on the wall, he was in academia, he was seeing the future. But they also criticized him, and they broke him down. They broke him down so hard and took his thesis and took everything that he did work so hard and just totally turned around on him for so many different reasons. Maybe he was going up against the system. And he was one of those that was anti-future. And then he hid out there in the woods and he was doing all those things and hurting people. But I was antagonized by both my peers and some academia, but more so by my peers. And I'm not even mad. I understand why y'all did that. I understand why the system did what they had to do. And I'm still sad for humans. That's why I keep doing what I'm doing, because even though despite all of the crap, and who knows who really attacked, there's some people who organically attacked me because they just didn't like me and whatever, and that's fine. But I know also there's probably government people that do purposely antagonize people to either bring out the innovation or just wear them down, and they finally just bow out. I mean, there's a method to all of this, and it's a dual type of solution. That either the energy is going to build you up and make you the best person ever with the best information ever, or you're just going to bow out because you don't have the support system. You don't have what it takes to explain yourself. That it was really just something, a passing fancy, that you became so radicalized and then you're willing just to give up. And that's what happened to that girl on the flat earth. She just gave up. She bowed out and she stopped talking about flat earth. She just left because the stress was too much. And I don't blame her. That's a lot to deal with. That's a lot to deal with. A lot. Especially when you don't really have that much investment. I mean, you do and you don't. Proving that the earth is flat and getting abused for it is not really worth it. It really isn't. Because what gain do you get from it? What gain? It still doesn't matter. The sun still rises over here and sets over here, and you still have to deal with pay taxes, and you still have to eat food and release demons, and you still have to deal with the changing of the world. So it's irrelevant if you can prove whatever you prove. Okay? So people are where they are. No amount of strategy will get people to condition that quickly. I finally understand. Hindsight was always 20/20. No matter how much strategy I developed for me, it was not always the appropriate strategy for somebody else. Some aspects, but the person who would have to been open enough to stop what they were doing and consider their own predicament and strategize their way if they even acknowledged the predicament they were in. Only the survivors of each wave will get the benefit of the outcome. So if you survived the last 3 years and you still haven't changed the way you do shit, yeah, the next wave or the one after that will just take you out. It's just a matter of time. The writing's on the wall, okay? Only the survivors of each wave will get the benefit of the outcome. The dead people are dead, so no problem, right? But the survivors would have to learn the lessons or they will continue to resist until the next wave takes them out completely. May the odds be in your favor. You had the last 3 years to change. I hope you survive this next change. I hope the survivors figure it out, even if they have to watch their firstborn succumb. That might be what will take is someone close to them drop like a fly. Okay? If one must learn the hard way, so be it. As I'm listening to sirens out there in the distance. And that was either yesterday or the day before. All right? And so, yeah, I said I'm telling you, I think my mom did play this music when I was a baby. She had to have. She had to have. My mom is so fucking smart. She figured out how to make me smart and fight for myself and deal with the repercussions on some level without doing really too much extensive brutalization that like what happened to Charles Manson. But he was smart. He knew that he knew his incompetence. He said he was incompetent. And he knew where his failures are. He knew where he understood humanity. He knew a lot. He was smart. He was smart because he had to be. He talked to everybody in the prison. He was actually even also part of some kind of Washington, D.C. child, whatever. Oh, he was given some interesting training by people in... Watch that video. At least watch the first 30 minutes, hour, whatever that video, if that. But watch it. But he knew. And so that's why he's a singer too, right? So why do y'all think why do you think all of Hollywood stars, singers, even me, have been so emotional for humanity? We know and feel the future, full of pain. The only real strategy was early detection and then a reconditioning. Okay, so even like the cancer patients, they get early detection, they release the demons, eat food, or they go get oncology. You choose your own adventure. But you had to understand what was going on early enough. And you find out the last minute and you're so weak and so immunocompromised and so entrenched in we know what's going to happen to y'all who've been resisting this change for so many years. It's here. It's now. It's here. So we knew it was going to happen, full of pain. The only real strategy was early detection and then a reconditioning. You had to be aggressive, not wishy-washy. I'm so sad for humans right now. So sad. I tried. I really did. You were up against infrasound. You had to condition for it. May the 4th be with you. Once you realize there was really no strategy for anyone who has not conditioned themselves for change and ignored the warnings or half-assed the info, it will be sad and devastating. It really will be. And some kids won't survive this. You're seeing it. So it's a matter of just enjoying your life now, like watching these movies where everyone's like all playing, doing their stuff. They're going to their soccer games. They're doing their laundry, and they're shopping, and they're going to their work and their job. And then one day they see all these aliens come through, and then all these aliens are dropping all these things. They're like, oh my God, it was once a peaceful world. Now they're seeing major devastation. And that, when you think about it, that's allegory to what some people will be experiencing personally in their own personal immune system. Everything is great and wonderful until it's not. And then, wow, that is a wake-up call like no other. When everything was like birds chirping and animals playing and then all the innocence gone like that. That's what these movies remind me of what's going on right now. And so I said the other day, not yesterday, but the day before, I can relax now. I will take tomorrow off. Most of you will not be conditioned for the new environment. Some of you will take my information because you survived the frequency change shift to 6G, which will be happening. And then it's using 6G to condition yourself for 7G. If you keep following all those herbalists and diet exercise gurus and remedy people and fear campaigns selling you protection from radiation, it will only be a matter of time before 6G, 7G, 8G destroy those who fail to condition. And I said, I fucking told you so. Who you follow and what you fear will determine your path or lack thereof. Now we get to watch what happens when people resist information. That fucking sucks. That's why I sleep with my phone. I'm not afraid of cell towers. And if you are, those are the indicators you have deficiencies and not conditioned. Your fear of everything is what made you weak. Who you follow out there trying to sell you every fucking remedy in the world made you weak. Those selling you protective gear against radiation made you weak. When you follow weak people, you become weak. Now look at your groups and all the weak activists out there. And they're dropping like flies while selling you absolution. I've been conditioning myself for the environment. And I eat food and I face pain. And there is no one out there that I can save. If I had kids, I wouldn't be able to save them. They had to be conditioned for the new world. And you have no idea the condition they hold inside except for what you can't handle. And I feel the energy right now. My heart is beating faster the other day. And I just had some steak and potatoes. Have a good Saturday. Sleep with your phone. Turn on your fucking Wi-Fi. Feel the pain. And I said accelerated growth from accelerated infra sounds. Fat equals submission. Expand. Too much fat. Clots. Broken blood vessels from energetic frequency. Muscle bone is resistance. Contract. Too much resistance. Breakage and ruptured blood vessels. Clots. One cannot be more than the other, or else bleeding, hemorrhaging, or die suddenly. Breakage. Infrasound. Okay? So you couldn't be too gelatinous because then the infrasound will break those blood vessels and you start bleeding, right? And you couldn't be too firm because you had to have some give to you or else there's breakage. And so you have to have a balance of both fat and muscle and bone and tendon and adipose tissue and all of that. And that is the conditioning. And so yeah, conditioning must be done well in advance. None of you are prepared for infrasound. Some of you are, but not all of you. That was the culprit all along. In an inaudible sound that will activate your immune system, V'd or not, you have been led astray when you don't want to face the pain while starving yourself simultaneously. So all your remedies will become activated and those monsters are going to torture you and not everyone's going to survive because you didn't understand the information and release those demons. You kept developing new ones. Okay? And so I talked about the frequency and all that. And impact of infrasound on the individual. Infrasound affects people biologically when its frequency 7 to 8 hertz coincides with the alpha rhythms of the brain flow of certain frequency. The frequency of sound of 18 to 19 hertz coincides with the resonance frequency of eyes. Therefore, it may cause optical illusion. This may be very dangerous when driving the means of transport and the like. When conducting research of the impact of infrasound on the environment, it was established that infrasound waves may cause the feeling of fear and anxiety. Infrasound of 120 decibels and stronger is very dangerous to the human organism. In addition, infrasound waves may ruin or damage the construction of buildings. At the present moment, the infrasound weapons of mass destruction have been created, the operation of which is based on the inducement of use in powerful infrasound vibrations. Frequency of 16 hertz. Infrasound wave effects the central nervous and digestive system, causing pain of the head, internal organs, and interfere with the rhythm of respiration. Giddiness, vomiting, loss of consciousness, and blindness may become manifest. Infrasound also has an effect of human consciousness. The individual fails to control his actions, arouses a feeling of horror, which sometimes is the cause of death. The basis of research of scientists shows the impact of infrasound of certain intensity on the individuals. And that's what that person was denying in that diet suddenly group. They said this, I mean, it doesn't sound like, I mean, it's written kind of awkward, but I get it. But I was feeling giddy yesterday. Oh, I was feeling giddy and energetic and just like, bam, bam. I was like Ricochet Rabbit. And I was thinking so clearly and on my feet and so right there in the moment, just in the moment, in the moment, in the moment. It was just like, holy crap, you couldn't really contain me. And I was just had so much to share. I mean, oh my God, I had a lot of fun. And I was fishing and I hung out with my husband and he was teaching me stuff. And it was just such a great time. And I was just like, okay, we got to go fish more. I mean, I felt like I was so in that moment. Okay. And so that's the thing about this is that, you know, you had to realize what was going on. You had to realize what was going on. And if you didn't, then okay, you'll enjoy your life until you don't. And maybe that's what it's going to take, you know, that people just do what they do and then they just fall over dead. And that might be the most humane thing versus having them suffer through all the treatments. Because that's the most inhumane. If someone has to be treated on top of treatments, and then there's no amount of treatments that will take away the pain. Then they have to be on morphine, and they're in palliative care, and they're just whining all over Facebook, and it's just so, God, it's so horrible. So anyways, so yeah, so we are in the New World Order. It's the Rosicrucians, like I said in my book, it's the Rosicrucians. If you release those demons, they don't have to alter you, but you have to condition yourself, and no time like the present. No time like the present to condition yourself for this. Because I'll tell you, 9/25 and we're heading into October 4th. That's like next week sometime. I mean, you can get the ball rolling, but oh my God, some of you do have strokes and heart attacks and other things lurking in your system. I don't know if you'll be able to handle it. I don't know. I can't be the one to tell you. Some people have already experienced this stuff and they dealt with it and they know what to expect and they remember the feelings of when 2019, 2020 came around, and they'll deal with that when it comes. But we're all going to find out how bad it will get. Because it hasn't been that bad. I mean, you see the diet suddenly groups are like, oh God, but it's not as bad. Oh, it's going to get worse. All right.